I am Chrissy Alvarez from Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation, or RCBC, and we welcome you today. Thank you for joining us for the virtual second meeting of the ABA Policy Advocacy Committee for 2022. To start our meeting, I would like to invite the chairman of the ABA, Mr. Eugene Acevedo, to deliver his welcome remarks. Chairman Acevedo, please.
Members of the ABA Board of Directors, distinguished paper presenters, ladies and gentlemen, good day to you all. As ABA Chairman, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the second virtual meeting this year of the ABA Policy Advocacy Committee. Today's meeting follows the successful meeting also held virtually that took place on March of this year. During that meeting, representatives from ABA member banks discussed the work program for 2022 and the position papers to be prepared on policy issues of current interest to members and the region's banking sector as a whole. Today, we will have the paper presentations on topics that were decided during that meeting. Some of the presenters last year are back with us today for another round. They will, of course, be joined by member bank experts who are here for the first time. Let me once again thank all of those who have registered for today's meeting. Your presence certainly underscores your continued commitment to our association and what it represents. Our special thank you also goes to those who will give their presentations today for generously agreeing to share with us their knowledge and expertise on policy issues of current concern to the banking community. I am sure their insightful contributions will add great value to our deliberations. Once again, I will leave the chairmanship of today's meeting under the capable hands of Ms. Christina Alvarez, who is the current chairman of the ABA Policy Advocacy Committee. I encourage each of you to actively participate in today's discussions so that concrete steps can be taken by the ABA on matters that have significant impact on the banking sector and the operations of our respective organizations. I therefore look forward to a productive meeting. Again, welcome to all of you. Chrissy, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Now let's move on to the first item, consideration of the paper on digital transformation. May I call on the representatives from BML, Ms. Fathimath Farihath Waheed, Head of Cards and Payment Governance, and Mr. Badhurudheen Hassan, Head of Retail Banking and Cards, to kindly make a summary report on the paper.
So Maldives, located in southern Asia in Indian Ocean, has a population of 550,000. We have 1,192 islands. We have 187 inhabited islands, and over 70% of our revenue is generated from tourism. We have 167 resorts. With COVID-19 pandemic and following the international travel restrictions that were in place, our tourist numbers were impacted. However, since then, now the numbers are on the increasing trend. Looking at the banking sector in Maldives, so we have 3 locally incorporated banks. These are Commercial Bank of Maldives, Maldives Islamic Bank, and Bank of Maldives. We have 4 foreign bank branches. These are Bank of Ceylon, Habib Bank Limited, HSBC, and State Bank of India. We also have a subsidiary of foreign bank, that is a Mauritius Commercial Bank. All these banks are governed, regulated, and governed by the Central Bank of Maldives, that is Maldives Monetary Authority. Let me share a quick background on a Bank of Maldives. So Bank of Maldives is the largest and leading bank in the country. We offer financial services to personal, business, and corporate customers. And also we have Sharia compliant banking services. We have a strong customer base of 310,000. We have 35 branches across our nation. We have 139 ATMs, 81 self-service banking sectors, and over 200 plus agents in the country. Looking at our digital banking channels, so Bank of Maldives was the first to introduce POS and mobile POS merchants in the country. We have 8,000 POS merchants and 2,229 e-commerce merchants. We were also the first to introduce mobile and internet banking in the country with 90% online penetration. We were also the first to launch cash and check deposit machines in the country. So I'll hand over to my colleague Badhurudheen, who will walk through our journey towards a digital transformation, and I'll later discuss on some of the challenges we faced during our digital transformation and the strategies that are in place to overcome this.
As Farihath mentioned, our country is a unique country with approximately 1,100 islands scattered across the ocean, and so which makes it a challenge for us for development as well. But it gives us the importance of the digital transformation as well. And as you have seen the numbers, we have a customer base of more than 300,000. Compared to other banks or other countries, these numbers may be very less. But compared to our population size, we cover almost 90% of the market, as well as we have presence in all the islands in the country. And as we look at our digital transformation journey, we have focused mainly on 3 areas. One is our branch transformation. We have a network of 35 branches across the country, and transforming these branches as well as developing digital channels for our customers to use, and then automation of back office processes so that customers can use the services seamlessly. So let me have a look at our branch transformation. So back in a few years back, we have been having our normal branches, that is traditional model. The branches are used for as transaction centers, mainly focused on cash, withdrawal, and deposit. So it will be like a transaction center. But we have transformed this model to a new model where customers can meet our agents. So we will be more focusing on relationship management as well as sales. And the transaction banking have been moved to self-service banking machines. We have installed self-service banking machines in all our branches except 2. This year, we are rolling out those two branches as well. In addition to branches, we have separate self-service banking booths in other islands as well. So in our branch environment, the focus is mainly on developing the relationship with the customers as well as sales. On the other hand, we have developed other online alternative channels so that customers can do their banking wherever they are. They do not have to visit the bank to do their banking. So in our journey, we have, as I mentioned, we have installed self-service banking centers, ATMs, and online alternatives have been developed for personal banking customers. And we introduced charges for over-the-counter transactions so that customers are more encouraged to move to the self-service banking channels. In our roadmap to complete transformation, going forward, we'll be stopping issuance of checks to individuals, as checks are very much dependent, used in our community still, but with our digital alternate channels, customers have moved to self-service banking and move away from checks. So, and another step will be to stop banking services for individuals at branches. I mean, the transaction services, but still customers can still approach our branches for other services. So if we look at the numbers in this journey, if you compare to 2019, we have significantly reduced the number of transactions that we do in the branches. In 2019, it was around 300,000 transactions we did, but last year it reduced to 57,000 transactions, which is a huge reduction. On the other hand, the self-service banking usage have been increasing. It is in millions on this side. And In 2020, we saw a drop of transactions, but with the global pandemic and the movement restrictions, but it is on a growing trend. And to look at the customer transaction numbers, we are very proud to say that not all, but 99.95% of our transactions are done through digital channels, including online banking, POS and e-commerce transactions, and self-service banking. The second component in our journey is the development of digital channels. As I mentioned before, we have been working on developing other alternate channels so that customers can do their banking at home or wherever they are located. They don't have to visit to the branch. So we developed the internet banking platform, and slowly we have been adding features to internet banking. And as well as we have developed the mobile banking app as well. I will have a look at some of the functions we have for in our internet banking channel. We offer basic banking services, of course, the domestic and international transfer, which is very basic, but still other account management is there. We have added services like card management. Customers can use the portal to activate their cards, freeze, unfreeze, or block the cards if and when necessary. Customers can change their PIN, set their own PIN number by themselves. In addition to these application services we have introduced, including additional account opening, information change, as well as personal loan requests. Customers can request for any type of personal loans from the internet banking service. And apart from that, customers can request for debit cards or credit cards. They can use this platform to apply for these services. Other than services, then we have incorporated recently the customer support functions as well. Customers will be able to reach out to bank using the messaging service as well as the chat function. And we have enabled all these services on our mobile app as well. If we have a look at our mobile app, we have been having two separate mobile apps in the past, one for basic banking and separate app for mobile wallet. But last year we have relaunched our unified mobile app, which we have merged all the functions. So if we look at the numbers, the digital penetration, 2019, it has increased significantly. The transaction values in 2019 were 72 billion, but last year we transacted via these channels 200 billion Maldivian rupiah. So there is a huge pickup in our digital channels. And the additional features we are working on to incorporate includes digital onboarding. Currently, we don't have digital onboarding yet, but customers who are already onboarded, they can apply for additional account opening and they can activate it instantly. And other services like eKYC update or expense management, bill pay service, and open banking features will be coming to our digital channels. Later, Farihath will be looking at the open banking features in detail. And the third component in our journey is the digitalization or the automation of the back office services. We have digital services through internet banking, but we have been working on the automation as well so that customers can get seamless and instant service. So we have recently introduced the instant account opening, so customers can instantly open additional accounts and activate it. We have automated the TET application processing service as well. Soon we will be introducing pre-approved credit limits and instant disbursement. We are working on this project of card renewal process and online onboarding. These are some of the major projects that we are currently working on. And from here, I will hand over to Fari to have a look at the open banking as well as highlight some of the challenges we have faced in this journey and the strategies we have for overcoming those challenges.
Open banking actually begins the competition and customer experience. So system has evolved. Traditional banks used to dominate the markets, and then came the phase where banks were focusing more on digitalization and digital banking. And then regulators start supporting these digital initiatives by allowing digital banking license. Now we can see the whole financial world is moving towards a more open ecosystem where banking data is integrated with third-party companies, and exchange of data and payments are expected to happen instantly. So in line with all this, our central bank has initiated the open banking project to ensure users are able to make and receive payments instantly, irrespective of where we live or where we bank. Some of the key features include instant payment. Customers do not need to input account details to execute a payment. They can use an identifier such as their phone number or ID card number to make payments. Other functions include request to pay, credit transfers, and bulk payments. Next, I'll look at some of the challenges we faced in our digital transformation journey. The first one on acceleration of automation needs due to pandemic in 2020. So when the lockdown measures were announced, almost all our bank branches had to be closed down, and there was a shift to digital channels. So the key challenge for us was the drastic shift of our workforce to remote working arrangements. Nonetheless, we ensured we were providing essential service on our online platforms, and we implemented a loan moratorium application portal and account opening application portal. These services were previously catered through our branches, so customers does not need to come for these services to branches anymore. The next challenge is the lack of skilled resources for IT projects. This has been a continuous challenge for bank to recruit skilled local IT developers. Given the bank is moving towards a more digital space, it is essential we have developers that. And the next one, limited APIs from national database. So government does recognize the importance of digital channels and digitalization, especially with the pandemic. However, there's still room to strengthen our infrastructure. And with digitalization, of course, there will be increased compliance and regulatory requirements. And other commitments being the National Bank to improve financial inclusion. So digitalization naturally creates potential cyber threats and requires additional layers of security. So it is very critical for us to have a payment infrastructure that is that enables smooth functioning. Now, let me look at some of the strategies to overcome these challenges. So we have been discussing about establishing an innovation lab or department to strategize our development efforts. And the plan is to collaborate with FIN to cater our development needs. So that's one of the strategies that we are exploring at the moment. And also we are working with agencies and government ministries to develop and gain access to digital registries, which would enable us further automate and speed up the verification process. This will, for instance, help us in our KYC customer onboarding process. We are also looking at implementing an agile leadership and working structure to remove the traditional way of how we conduct projects and deliver certain projects. So to remove the bureaucracy and things like that, we are going to implement a more agile working culture within our organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation. May I now invite the member banks and the participants for comments on the presentation report. We have a few questions here. First, it is interesting to see self-service banking introduced for a country like Maldives. It looks essential. How do you manage the self-service banking centers?
Actually, we have self-service banking centers in the branches where the branches are located. Self-service bank center is just next to the branch, where the branch teams will be attending to the self-service banking machines, like filling of cash and doing the balancing. And there are some self-service banking machines that we have established at islands where there are no branches as well. So to these islands, our branch teams will be traveling whenever it is necessary for doing the balancing of the ATM machines or the self-service banking machines to collect additional cash. As these are cash recyclers, we can reduce the traveling frequencies as well. At least a month, once in a month, our teams will be traveling from the nearest branch to these places. But as there is no need for our presence to be there, as customers can do their banking themselves, we don't have to be there, but we have to travel occasionally at certain frequencies.
A few more questions are coming in. With such a small population in the country, how was it to scale enough to be digitalized? Although I think in your presentation, you did say your number of customers is 300,000.
Yeah, our population is crossed 500,000 now, including the expatriate population here. But if we consider the Maldivian population, we have 99% market share. But if we consider the whole country, we have a market penetration of 90%. And as a national bank, we have a responsibility or duty for financial inclusion as well. So we focus very much on this strategy. We have to cover each and every island. So we have, other than branches and self-service banking centers, we have established a network of agents in all the islands. So we provide the basic banking services there, like withdrawals and deposits.
I'll combine two questions about the challenges you face. Do you use in-house development teams or outsource the service? And linked to this question is, how are you able to overcome the challenge on lack of skilled resources for IT projects?
We use both in-house and we also outsource certain our development efforts. But we are very lucky to say we have a really good information technology team, but still with the ongoing number of priorities that are happening in the bank, there is the challenge of having developers to cater this for the timelines that are set. So we outsource some of our development efforts, and we also focus on providing training to our staff to overcome the challenges. And it is one of our priority to focus on our IT resources and recruiting skilled IT developers to Bank of Maldives.
There are a lot of questions. One question is related to the geographical location of the country, and how is your digital transformation disaster resilient? What are the measures that you put in place to ensure continuous operations?
We have our infrastructure in various locations, separate locations. So we have disaster management policies and procedures in place, so that if there is any incident or disruption, we can address those. And the data centers are established in different locations. So any backup systems are established. So we are always ready for such incidents.
Yeah, I think this is evident really from the pandemic we've experienced, because all of our bank's branches were closed down, and we had to rely on remote working arrangements and on our digital channels. So we do have a business continuity plan in place on to act on when certain incident happens.
I think we have time for one more question. I think it's a common problem or common concern. What types of fraud have you experienced with adoption of mobile banking and internet banking? If you have come across.
Yeah, of course, as Hari also mentioned in the presentation, with digitalization comes with a lot of cyber threats, and there are scams.
There are scams and phishing emails that we face.
Yeah, and we also conduct customer awareness programs so that customers are much more aware of the developing criminal activities or cyber threats like that, so that customers are also aware as much as possible. So we face challenges like that, but we are making our customers more.
And also there is continuous awareness programs conducted among our employees as well, to train them to react to such incidents.
And thank you everyone for your comments and inputs. We hereby declare the BML paper as endorsed by the committee. And we will keep you posted on further steps that the committee and the ABA will take on your paper. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let us now proceed to the next agenda item. And that last question was on point to the papers on cybersecurity management. May I now call on the representative from Hatton National Bank, Mr. Suresh Emmanuel, Chief Information Security Officer, to make the summary report on the paper.
Thank you, Chrissy, and thank you for having me here. So today I'll be actually talking a little bit about the cybersecurity management. So, first of all, I think we need to let me set the context for the cybersecurity management. To set the context, first we need to understand the current threat landscape. So I have taken some data based on a certain survey analysis done by the Cyber Threat Defense Report 2022. For the last 12 months, cyber threat attack patterns, which based on that, how we have to basically, customize our cyber threat management plans. So if we take one of the critical thing is the gale force of winds are still continue to be flowing really hard. You can see that. So basically, about almost 13% of the organizations within last 12 months, they've been experiencing more than 10 times cyber attacks. So meaning they've been continuously almost within last 12 months, they've been getting cyber attacks for like almost every month there's a cyber attack. And the majority of the, basically about 45% of the organizations been experiencing at least between 1 to 5 times cyber attacks, meaning there are also more than 5 times, about 5 times cyber attacks are taking place. So it's going to be a kind of prevailing issue in the market or for the organizations, and it continue to be like that. So if you take the few more facts, so there are about 85% of the organizations have at least one successful cyber attack taken place annually. So most likely, this figure going to be increased with the current remote working and other setup the people has been following with the new as new normal as part of the pandemic situation. So if we go to the further, and within last 12 months, actually the education industry actually received more attacks compared to the other industries, including but the financial industry still remain about more than 88%. And as a country, if we analyzed, almost all regions are equally getting attacked, including the Latin American countries, the Europe, the Middle East countries, and Asian countries as well. So we don't see a specific difference between when the attackers are targeting certain countries. So basically, most of the time, sometimes there could be certain political reasons as well. And most of the time, they are actually after the financials or the money. Let me move into the next slide. Okay, so so we seeing that the consistent pattern of cyber attacks for like last 12 months. But if we predict for the next 12 months, so most likely about 76% of the organization, they actually predict they may receive a cyber attack within next 12 months time. So it's very, and also about 35% of the organizations, they are very likely to receive a cyber attack. So they confirm that they are most likely to receive a cyber attack within next 12 months time. But if you also continue to see by industry, the finance industry is predicted to be getting more cyber attack compared to other industries within next 12 months time. So it's one of the the key thing when especially when we articulate a cyber strategy and a cyber plan in your organization, you need to aware of these market facts and the data. To based on that, you need to articulate a proper plan which can actually can cooperate with this kind of cyber attacks, and you have to have a kind of a living document which can actually have to be changed according to the current market trends. So if we compare the certain the technologies or the security posture by IT domain, actually the previously, if we can recall probably about 5 to 6 years ago, or maybe even before that, the cloud applications and server data base level or the laptop level attacks being the one of the most vulnerable IT security domain. But if we take now that particular threat landscape is actually changing from that cloud security applications to now actually moving from the to API related attacks and the Internet of Things. A lot of IoT devices are in the market, and a lot of organizations are adapting them, which comes with the artificial intelligence and machine learning kind of capabilities. And even the convergence card devices are most likely to get certain cyber attacks, as well as the mobile devices are subject to more cyber attacks. So these figures actually give us some, these data actually giving us some focus to concentrate on. So most organizations which are actually currently adapted API as a primary with the open API kind of project, especially the banks actually even in Sri Lanka, and most of the banks actually at the moment adapting the open API related technologies. So API based integrations are becoming most vulnerable. One of the technologies, or it attract more hackers compared to the cloud application kind of technologies, which actually used to be the one of the most attracted technologies. So who's actually doing all these kind of attacks? So if you take here, actually maybe most of you already know, but here I want to really highlight one fact here. It's not always the financial gain. For example, last year in Sri Lanka, most banks actually received a red alert, because of it's not really from a financial gain perspective kind of cyber attack, but it's actually a politically motivated attack due to certain political political issues in the country. Most national banks actually received a red alert that they might subject to cyber attack. So they had to strengthen up their especially their online resources, including internet banking, mobile banking kind of facilities, and corporate internet banking kind of facilities, and enable a lot of monitoring as well as their recovery plan and all. So these are the few key areas which we have to consider when we especially drafting a cybersecurity strategy and the management. So let me spend a little bit more time on this. So as we always say, the security is not a destination, it's a journey. So, you know, as Atlantic National Bank, we adopted a lot of security processes, policies, procedures, and, you know, a lot of technologies to ensure our customers are protected. So based on that, I actually, simplified it, the old security strategies into key 4 steps. So one of the key thing you need to do is to understand your cyber threat landscape. But how you do that? So basically, doing a comprehensive cyber risk assessment. So that comprehensive cyber risk assessment should actually cover your suppliers and your even your remote working or the teleworking, or you can call it work from home, whatever the new strategies you adapted or the practices adapted within your organization, including certain outsourced operations. Because for an attacker, it's very convenient or easy to attack your supplier and get the connectivity to your organization or steal data from your suppliers in, rather trying to penetrate into a kind of fully the strengthened and the protected banking environment. Because hackers always know that in the bank kind of a banking environment, we generally have the defense in depth concept and implement layers and layers of security. But when it comes to our suppliers may not have that same luxury to have these security infrastructure in place. Because of that, attackers usually target suppliers more than the actual customers to gain. So there are we have a lot of global incidents and the examples for that, including the very last year. I think we got the SolarWinds supply chain based attack, also something similar. So and also one of the key things is to you need to identify as an organization or as a bank. So what are the most severely affected and the most frequent threats to cyber threats to your organization? But it can be different from a bank to bank. So when in HNB, what we do is, so based on the analysis, we use a lot of data analysis and the intelligence based on our current digital infrastructure. For example, we do have a digital bank and digital wallet, as well as corporate banking, internet banking, as well as other direct connectivities to the API-based connectivities with our suppliers and other stakeholders. So based on that, actually data and the number of transactions and the days of threshold, we do a lot of analysis. Then based on that, we actually prioritize and identify what are the most impactful in terms of the frequency, as well as number of transactions, as well as the in terms of the severity, what are the key areas in terms of cyber threats. So that will actually help us to move our cards along with the journey. As part of that, we are able to kind of get our priorities up front. So based on that, actually we can actually come up with a more defensive strategy and a kind of strategy to make sure that our critical or the crown jewels of the business are protected. Same time, as a second step, you can do is assess your cybersecurity maturity level. So this is something end of your regulators also wanted you to do it. In our bank HNB, actually we follow the NIST framework, and there are other, especially for the payment card industry, we follow the PCI DSS, and we are also certified for the ISO 27001 Information Security Management System standard. So actually, as a consolidation to these frameworks, we have come up with our own cybersecurity framework. So which actually consists of most of the requirements of NIST, ISO 27000, including the data privacy related requirements. So based on that, we have come up with our own cybersecurity maturity model and a framework. Based on that, we do our actually the maturity level analysis, and actually we are determining our maturity level, and we have come up with our roadmap. And to with the roadmap, we are actually in this journey, we are fixing all the roadblocks, and we are actually becoming mature more and more year on year compared to last year to this year. Kind of maturity level we are achieving on a consistent basis in terms of cybersecurity. So in your maturity model, there could be process level controls, including your consistent user level training, and as well as certain technologies you might have to adapt, because unfortunately the cybersecurity or the security investments are not cheap, and as well as you have to consistently evolve, and you need to adapt the latest technology most of the time. For example, the XDR kind of the technologies where you detect and respond more effectively, and as well as your data leakage prevention or data loss prevention kind of technologies, and encrypting your critical data, whereas nobody and better with the better access control. And one of the critical one is the implementing your 24/7 SOC. So when HNB actually implemented the 24/7 SOC, we actually improved our cybersecurity infrastructure. I mean the resilience over probably about 30 to 40% from that SOC alone, because the amount of threats we block on consistent basis, the activities which are aligned to SOC, for example, red team assessments, blue team assessments as part of SOC, we actually do align into the MITRE attack framework, which is a globally accepted framework. So with these technologies and the implementation and the processes and practices, we ensure that the bank's infrastructure is always protected. So, and also now we are also improving in terms of adapting new technologies such as deception. So deception is one of the key areas where nowadays the most organizations are looking into. And as per one of the Gartner research report, also most organizations globally also now looking into deception, because it's not always about you can't really 100% sometimes prevent an attacker coming in, but how soon you can identify the attacker and how soon you can retain that particular cyber attack. That's where it matters. So as HNB, we have invested on cyber insurance. Is the very first Sri Lankan bank to invest on cyber insurance. So from the global cyber insurance body. So these preventive and the risk transfer options actually give our cybersecurity posture kind of a better maturity level. Even the process level controls, we have to ensure they are being properly followed. The one way we can actually, after determining the maturity model, one way we can keep improving is by assigning KPIs and KRIs. We actually follow a KRI KPI based the dashboard related the review process, where we continue to monitor all the key risk areas. For example, we define even small things such as the number of users completing security training to based certain facts. For example, out of the phishing simulation exercise we do, probably how many number of users are actually clicking and opening it. So based on these kind of KPIs and KRIs, which actually helps any organization to improve on consistent basis. So we also have this KPI KRI based monitoring mechanism for cybersecurity. Which actually help us to improve our cybersecurity model. And also, as a bank, we do have the main steering committee, information security steering committee, which actually review all the SOC reports and all the action trackers when it comes to cybersecurity, which actually have the steering committee level reporting and the drivers for the cybersecurity management. Actually, this information security steering committee is chaired by the chief executive officer, CEO, or the chief operating officer of the bank. And this information security steering committee is actually directly reporting to the board risk committee, whereas through the board risk committee, actually it reports directly to the board. The minutes of the meetings actually be tabled at the board risk committee as well as the main board meetings. So it actually ensures that the oversight of the cybersecurity management is directly under the supervision of the main of the board of directors, which actually make the board of directors also more accountable and responsible for the cybersecurity implementation of the bank. Then as the first step, I said that the document, we need to have a document our cybersecurity strategy and make sure it is a live document or the living document. So basically the board of directors should have the better concurrence and the oversight of the cybersecurity management of the bank. Actually, our regulator, central bank, has issued a new guideline through a technology resilience directive. What are the responsibilities when it comes to board of directors, especially when it comes to cybersecurity and the information security related activities, and establish the accountability within the bank. For example, you might have different pillars. For example, IS audit, CIS, so vertical, the information security, then the IT security, as well as the CRO under technology risk pillars. So you need to have a proper RASI chart of the responsibility, accountability, consulted, and informed. We call it. It's basically a kind of a CMMI model-based RASI chart. So in that procedure, you have to clearly define who's doing what. So for example, who is responsible for the policies, who's responsible for the procedures, who's driving the implementation within IT, who will be the L1, who will be the L2, who will be the L3. So these responsibilities has to be clearly defined in the proper cybersecurity management. When each of these pillars challenge each other, actually you will create a healthy environment for the organization to, in terms of, improve on a consistent basis. And also you need to ensure you are promoting the awareness among all stakeholders, including your customers as well as suppliers. You need to be consistent in terms of doing security awareness sessions to your customers, as well as at least to send certain emails on frequent basis on the ongoing phishing attacks and how to protect your online credentials and all. Similarly, you need to educate your suppliers as well. Maybe there could be certain suppliers or the vendors, they have as equal as access as the privilege access equal to a admin working in the bank. So you need to give proper awareness to them to make sure that they also be part of all these policy procedures and controls, and also conducting the phishing simulation kind of exercise on a frequent basis, which actually ensures the learning and also through the learning and development practices such as the classroom trainings and all, which actually promote awareness within the bank as well as the suppliers and other stakeholders. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So we talked about articulating a cyber strategy. So I just want to quickly touch upon a few key areas you have to consider when you are actually articulating cyber strategy. So basically, the cybersecurity has to be prioritized in your organizational culture, especially when you're drafting a cybersecurity strategy. For example, you might have certain business goals relating to, for example, you will be opening a digital wallet in your organization, in the bank, and there could be certain new products coming in. That whatever the projects you are taking in, the cybersecurity has to be part and parcel of the culture, where it has to be considered very early stages of the project. So that culture has to be built in, because otherwise you will be only considering the security aspects before go live or post go live. So that's maybe too late, and maybe the change is going to be costly as well. And also you have to set the tone from the top. So for example, the C-suite and the top board and the top management, their buy-in is highly, crucial and essential for a successful cybersecurity management plan. So especially the cybersecurity should be in one of the key agenda item on a consistent basis on all these C-level meetings. And we already talked about the creating a better framework and the risk management, and also the vulnerability assessment kind of framework within the bank. So in that way, we can consistently evaluate our risk levels. And also the drills or the incident management and the continuity plan is one of the critical things, because it's always said that assume breach. You have to assume that you are breached, and in case you are breached, what you will be doing: step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So that has to be practiced at least minimum biannually or at least annually. because as in HNB, we actually do the biannual cybersecurity drills. In that way, we ensure that in case of a cyber attack, who's doing what, who's initiating the call tree, and what is the table of discussions, and basically who can declare it as a disaster, and who's going to do the media kind of any other communications. So all of these things has to be properly articulated as part of the cyber resilience plan, and disaster cyber incident recovery plan, and should be socialized and socialized among the key stakeholders to ensure in case of a cyber attack, everybody is well aware of their role and they are doing what is their part. So that is one of the critical thing, because you need to, like your normal business continuity, you need to practice your cyber business continuity plans also. And also, the visibility, as I said, the visibility, the better governance, resilience, and which is should be overall part and parcel of the your cybersecurity plan. So you need to give the visibility even to the up to the board of directors in terms of cybersecurity, certain key what are the key risk in the bank. You need to have a consistent practice for at HNB. Actually, we on a consistent basis, we actually report all the open risk to the board of directors and obtain their concurrence, and based on the what are the current controls and what are the next steps we are taking to mitigate these cyber attacks, or the cyber how to address the vulnerable points. So this should be a consistent process, and the overall governance from the different pillars should be in place. Right. So when you actually implement this cybersecurity plan, strategy, and the roadmap, and also you have to ensure that this strategy or the roadmap which you've been continuously working is sustainable. So I actually took this the Gartner, the CARE model, which is which actually the kind of standard for the cybersecurity, where the people, most of the global organizations currently practice. So it actually says the CARE being the consistent, adequate, reasonable, and effective. So you can actually, based on these 4 matrices, you can ask these questions for your organization. For example, do your controls work the same way over the time across the organizations? That's one of the key things you can ask. For example, you might have a bit kind of decentralized environment where your controls are not centrally managed. So in that case, there could be certain glitch in the controls effectiveness where users might not be able to, have the proper controls in place across the bank. Similarly, do you have satisfactory controls in line with your business need? Do you have appropriate, fair, and moderate controls? So you need to always validate your control levels, and how effective these controls are. And also, are you control successful in producing desired intended outcome? So that's where your the continuous review process is taking place. So where you need to evaluate the controls and the review, and based on the KPIs, you need to consistently improve. And I can take up any questions.
Thank you, Suresh. We will have the Q&A after the presentation from Dotin. So Ms. Madi Norosian is Chief Planning and Development Officer of Dotin, subsidiary of Bank Pasargad.
Thank you, Chrissy. And hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to attend the ABA Policy Advocacy Committee meeting to represent Bank Pasargad, a privately owned bank in Iran. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk about Bank Pasargad and our experience in promoting cybersecurity. Bank Pasargad is a commercial bank and provides a full array of services to 6.6 million clients through a network of 300 plus branches located in 71 cities across the country. And it operates 2,000 plus ATM machines. More than 96% of all Bank Pasargad transactions take place electronically, making it even more prone to cyber attacks. Our vision is to become the best financial services company in the Middle East. And regarding market share in deposits, Bank Pasargad is ranked second among 15 private banks in Iran. Bank Pasargad is also the winner of 7 times Bank of the Year award by The Banker, 3 times straight winner of the Euro Money Award, and also the only Iranian bank among top 500 banking brands. Bank Pasargad offers retail banking plus corporate, private, and investment banking services since its incorporation in 2006. It is a very technology-oriented bank that owns an independent ICT corporate called FANOP, which delivers total solutions for several industries, for example, energy, data centers, telecom, network, and health solutions. Around 10 years ago, FANOP in turn established an in-house IT solution provider called The Team that provides the bank with a total suite of banking solutions consisting of service-oriented, architecture-based, multi-channel software products. It has developed more than 30 products in the field of banking operations, payments processing, electronic and digital banking. And now we come to the topic of cybersecurity, which is the set of practices used to protect the internet-connected systems against cyber threats or any other unauthorized access to data centers and other computerized systems. Almost every business is a potential victim of cybercrime. However, financial and insurance organizations are the most targeted industries by cyber criminals globally because of their highly critical and valuable data and transactions. According to a survey conducted by CSPS, cybersecurity risk was rated extremely important by more than 80% of bankers as the top internal risk, more than double any other category of operational risk. And more importantly, cybersecurity threats pose reputational risks in addition to operational risks. Clients may lose trust and move their businesses elsewhere because of the cyber attacks. Also, reputation-destroying attacks are much easier to conduct than attacks that can really destroy data or a service. There are a few challenges in cybersecurity of financial institutions in order to build a resilient structure against cyber threats. The first one is change, the continuous effort on the path to digital transformation and innovation. In Iran, digital transformation plans have been the goal of many companies, not only banks. They now operate more and more on new applications, devices, and infrastructure components that increase the attack surface and the cybersecurity risks. Even if an institution or bank does not want to follow digital transformation, it must still be equipped with a high level of cybersecurity to comply with interbank security protocols and regulations. Also, we have supply chain attacks, such as the SolarWinds breach, and these attacks are another reason for the importance of cybersecurity along the whole line of third-party providers of the bank, even to the levels of operating systems providers such as Linux and Microsoft, which could potentially add weak links to the chain. SolarWinds breach happened in 2020, and attackers gained access to its network and infected thousands of companies, including banks and government agencies. And also we have a hybrid workplace that banks or their third-party solution providers may probably use hybrid workplaces combining in-office and remote employees, which brings new cyber attacks and threats. Common cyber attacks for financial institutions are ransomware, in which user is prevented from accessing their system or data until they pay a ransom fee to the attacker. Phishing, which is spoof websites and login pages that look like the official bank website, but are used to steal people's usernames and passwords. Web application attacks like file injections, SQL injections, and XSS. Vulnerability exploitation attacks like zero-day vulnerabilities or other known vulnerabilities. DDoS attacks that crash a target website by overwhelming it with traffic. And insider threats that may also cause disruptions and critical data loss, whether purposeful or unintentional. Among other banks, Bank Pasargad has a few more reasons to consider vast cybersecurity practices. First, because of its open banking approach. Although not mandatory in Iran, Bank Pasargad provides numerous APIs for its clients, especially companies, to perform their transactions. This service increases the risk of cyber attacks. Second, and unfortunately, due to sanctions, we cannot make use of the standard tools and products for detection and response, and we need to develop all these tools in-house. And last, double concerns of the Central Bank of Iran and its strict rules and strong requirements for the banks to provide resilience against cyber attacks. All these factors show the importance of cybersecurity for Bank Pasargad. Therefore, the bank determined some strategic decisions that I name a few to enhance its cybersecurity. It established an independent company dedicated to cybersecurity products and services, consisting of experts and talents. They have developed numerous products, such as PAM, Privileged Access Management, which is a mechanism to safeguard identities with spatial access beyond regular users. Or, for example, EDR, Endpoint Detection and Response Tool, which is a security solution that combines real-time monitoring and collection of endpoint data with rule-based automated response and analysis capabilities. It analyzes the collected data to identify suspicious activities, and if it finds any, will automatically respond to remove or contain and notify the security personnel. Bank Pasargad also created a separate department to manage all security initiatives and plans responsible for setting up the security requirements for the branches, data centers, third-party solution providers, and all the customer touchpoints. This way, we make sure our policies in governance, risk, and compliance are consistent and integrated. Next step, we adopted and customized a cybersecurity framework, which I will explain shortly. We also built a red team to conduct offensive security. Red team is a group of people authorized and organized to emulate a potential adversary's attack or exploitation capabilities against an enterprise security posture. It plays the role of an enemy or competitor to provide security feedback. So we adopted a cybersecurity framework that has three properties. First, it is threat-centric, because there are general threats, business-specific threats, meaning the threats that all banks are prone to. And then there are firm-specific threats that depend on the technologies an institution has employed. This makes the need for us to adopt our own cybersecurity framework, which should also cover all domains of cybersecurity and probable risks. In addition to technical capabilities, it should cover governance and management processes, and also should provide security control validation. Based on those three principles, we have adopted and customized this framework from CISSP, International Information System Security Certification Consortium. Depending on the maturity level of the institution in security, depending on its people and their knowledge, processes, and the products in use, the starting point and the actions an institution should take will be different. For example, in our case, in asset security, we did not use common asset discovery and management tools due to various operational and security risks. Rather, we developed an in-house tool installed on every server, collecting the asset configuration items of the server, sending them to a database. This way, we know what is installed on which server, its version, firewall, IP tables, and so on. And when an incident happens, we know exactly what jobs were running in that period of time. Our customization of the framework is more in the field of product and processes and less about people. For example, in network security, we used an Iranian product with a special encryption method. Also in the field of place, the bank has taken actions against attacking ATM machines. I can share this experience here. In Iran, an attack began on the ATM machines, which are generally of well-known vendors, and as a result, their characteristics and weaknesses are also well-known internationally. For example, that there is a USB port behind the camera socket. Attackers would go to the ATM machines at night mostly, break the cameras, remove them, and attach a microcontroller that was pre-programmed and commanded the ATM machine to move the cassettes and deliver money. Bank Pasargad was not affected and no money was withdrawn because of a software called Execution Management System that we developed also in-house and is a whitelist of exe files that can be run on clients and prevents the operating system from running unauthorized commands. This is a big picture of how we manage different fields in cybersecurity, and I just go through one item, our CDN. CDN stands for Content Delivery Network, which was implemented in 2017 in Bank Pasargad. A private cloud and dedicated CDN seemed as the best option to maximize the cybersecurity of the bank. Usually, most companies that provide CDN services use their own public infrastructure in order to offer services to the banks. In the case of Bank Pasargad, the team has provided the complete CDN solution on the premises of the bank. The role of a CDN is to deliver online content from the closest possible point to the user, thus faster and at a higher quality. This cloud security allows us to safely distribute content by simply defining security rules in a cloud environment. In addition, the cloud firewall makes it possible to block access to a specific group of users. Therefore, we were able to establish a DDoS protection solution, which helps protect our websites and online services against DDoS attacks without any need to change hosts, network architecture, or source code. The latest CDN solution deployed by Datin for Bank Pasargad uses advanced Anycast architecture and its global server load balancing technology to fend off UDP, TCP layer 304, ICMP layer 7, or DNS server attacks. Also, web application firewall is the system tasked with preventing traditional and advanced cyber attacks. This system helps neutralize most of the common and advanced web attacks. There were two main goals of the Bank Pasargad for implementing a CDN. The first goal was increasing the performance and the quality of the web-based services in the banks. Dottin offered a range of edge services to Bank Pasargad as a part of the CDN. And the users are connected to the closest server to their geographical location, and as a result, they experience faster and high quality of usage. It reduced the average load time of banks' online services by 40 to 70%. One page, for example, that would load in 1 second before implementing CDN now loads between 0.6 to 0.3 seconds. The second goal was increasing the security of these services and its management in an integrated manner. Since the implementation, many attacks, including a DDoS attack with a volume of 200 Gbps, have been fended off. Furthermore, thousands of cyber attacks to banking web services were fended off using WAF, Web Application Firewall. Several cyber attacks were blocked, and among them, the most recent one was a DDoS attack that was blocked. Thank you, and I'm ready for any questions.
Congratulations to Bank Pasargad. We already actually got some questions early on. So maybe either Maddie or Suresh can answer this. How important is end user training in cybersecurity management?
The end user training is one of the critical important factor when it comes to cybersecurity, because for a attacker or a hacker, it is much easier to manipulate a user rather than trying to breaking into your firewalls and all the security infrastructure. So attacker who is trying to getting into your systems or the infrastructure, he will be primarily trying to send an attachment with the malicious code or the virus or whatever the malicious were. He'll be trying to send it across, attaching into a file and send it across to one of your users. Especially, for example, HR receiving whatever the resume is, they have to anyway open them. So similarly, they might be the attacker might be targeting several other users of the bank as well. So the continuous end user training is really important. Then only you can educate users not to open certain attachments, and how to identify the phishing emails and all. So it is very important.
It's actually very important because some of the threats are not targeted to the services of the bank directly, but to the consumers. For example, phishing. You can do nothing to prevent phishing. You can just increase awareness and educate end users in order to remain more secure. And it's fortunately, this is a program, a continuous program in the public relations department of the Bank Pasargad to increase awareness and educate end users from every media it has.
Thank you. And there's a question here on the target for cybersecurity attacks. Do we have an estimate on the target, whether these are the money or the amounts itself or customer information? In fact, there's also a follow-up question. What's your thoughts on solving or addressing identity theft?
If you let me, we have different levels of KYC, authorization levels of performing transactions, depending on the strength of the information provided. For example, if you are conducting an transaction on the mobile wallet, which may be less secure, you have this ceiling of daily transaction that mitigates the risk of losing money from the consumers. And whenever you want to make larger transactions, you need to provide stronger identity information, your address, your passport, and two-factor authentication or other mechanisms.
Thank you again, Suresh from HNB and Madi from Dotin Bank Pasargad. Let's continue to the next agenda item, the consideration of the paper on cooperation in achieving sustainability goals. A copy of the paper has been circulated earlier as attachment 3, and may I now invite Gabby Tomas, Chief Risk Officer and Head of Risk Management Group, and Ms. Army Lamberte, Head of the Portfolio Quality Division Risk Management Group of RCBC, to present the summary report of your paper.
Good afternoon to Chairman Eugene, Chrissy, and to all ABA members as well as non-member banks in attendance today. You know, when we spoke to the ABA last year about RCBC's sustainability journey, we were essentially fresh off our public declaration to stop financing any new coal projects. At that time, there was only one other Philippine bank who had made any public pronouncement on managing their coal exposures. In the following months, things started moving ahead. The ADB had announced their energy transition mechanism would pilot in 3 ASEAN countries, namely Philippines, Vietnam, and Indonesia. Following that, 2 other large Philippine banks had made pronouncements on managing their coal exposures. As we speak, most, if not all, Philippine banks are in various stages of rolling out their own environmental and social risk management systems. So it is indeed positive that so much has been happening, but we cannot be complacent. We all know that there is only more heavy lifting ahead. And so against this backdrop, we at RCBC forge ahead, exploring and creating new pathways for Philippine banks to achieve their sustainability aspirations. Next slide, please. Thus, we would like to share some updates on where we are, as well as how we are responding to this challenge. For the Philippines, we must acknowledge the leadership of our chief regulator, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, as they have issued timely and relevant but broad and concrete guidance for all of us. In 2020, they issued Circular 1085, which required banks to integrate sustainability into their corporate governance and risk management frameworks. This was followed up with Circular 1128 the following year, with more specific requirement for banks to integrate ENS risks into their credit and operational risk processes, as well as developing ENS-related targets or goals. So against this supportive regulatory environment, of course, we keep our eye on the prize. We are always looking at the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And for the past 2 years, the UN Secretary General, in a report to the UN Economic and Social Council, had emphasized the need for urgent attention on climate action, which is Sustainable Development Goal number 13. Further, the Secretary General's report also said that affordable and clean energy was essential to addressing this climate problem. They added that while the pandemic indeed changed all our lives, the post-pandemic recovery was a unique opportunity to change our way of living and reduce our carbon footprint. In response to these challenges, we at RCBC believe that a solid foundation of knowledge is key. We've gone about embedding knowledge and awareness throughout the institution, educating our employees on ESG. Starting in 2021, we launched our annual sustainability e-learning program with climate change as our pilot theme. This serves as an immersion for our employees to understand not only the bank's role, but their individual responsibilities to their environment and communities. Further, this is reinforced by the addition of ESG-related key result areas to our people's performance evaluation metrics. More than that, we are also reaching out to our extended organization That means we include our clients and suppliers, and we orient them on ESG principles and practices by distributing infographics and information, which are aimed at promoting awareness of the effects of climate change and the need for measures to reduce emissions. And number two, to provide information on RCBC's sustainable activities and how these contribute to the various UN SDGs. Through these new and ongoing activities, we strongly believe in transparency. We follow global standards for reporting and disclosure, not only to cement the credibility of our approach, but more importantly, to be able to share our success. As in previous years, we have published our annual sustainability and impact report, as well as our impact report video that highlights the bank's continuing commitment to sustainability. As a matter of fact, the theme for 2021 is innovations that deliver. Speaking of delivery, allow me to highlight some of the achievements we have made so far. So far, the bank has raised a total of $1.1 billion in green and sustainable bonds. Further, our sustainable portfolio shows more than twice as much green assets than we have social assets. This shows our strong support for green projects, especially in the wake of our very public pronouncements to no longer fund any new coal projects. In February of 2022, we launched the country's first green time deposit as a way to allow retail customers to participate in providing funds for projects with clear environmental benefits. We provide them with the means to earn interest on a time deposit, at the same time make a positive contribution to climate action. In that same month, RCBC raised a total of 14.75 billion pesos in ASEAN sustainability bonds, which is the first Philippine peso denominated sustainability bonds issued this year. As of the end of 2021, the bank's sustainable portfolio had grown by 28% year-on-year to 67 billion pesos, with renewable energy and energy efficiency dominating this with a 60% share. Since we started in 2012, RCBC has supported around 3 gigawatts of renewable energy, and we are not stopping there. For 2022 and 2023, we have a pipeline of 12 renewable energy projects with a combined capacity of 1.6 gigawatts. We also note that our existing legacy coal portfolio is gradually tapering off and will be fully off our books by 2031. But these are just a few highlights that I am mentioning. If I were to go through all the impact that we create, I would take the better part of the afternoon. I think it's better for the audience to have a picture by sitting down and enjoying our 2021 impact video, which we will now flash on the screen.
Being sustainable finance nowadays is to respond to a true calling. After all, saving the planet and creating a more sustainable future requires long-term commitment. This we realized as we struggled with the lingering effects of the COVID-19 global pandemic and extreme weather disturbances like Super Typhoon Odette, which caused havoc in many parts of the Philippines in December 2021. If there is one lesson we universally learn from all these events, it is that we cannot solve everything alone. This is why the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas has been rallying support for lending or investing in green or sustainable projects. Fully committed to support the BSP's call, we at RCBC have been stepping up our contributions to the reduction of global warming. We have embarked on many pioneering efforts since creating our sustainable finance framework in 2019. All these you will find in our 2021 Impact Report, which I invite you to download and read on our website. Being at the forefront of sustainable finance is part and parcel of being a responsible financial institution. Because at RCBC, we know that the way we do business can lead to shaping a cleaner and fairer future that leaves no one behind. After all, sustainability is a shared responsibility, and doing good is not only good business, it is the right thing to do.
Banks have a role to play in the fight against climate change. This is especially true in the case of banks in the Philippines, a country considered most at risk from a climate crisis. Because of their exposure to sectors such as mining, energy, oil, and gas, Philippine banks face credit risks linked to environmental factors, particularly climate change. According to international credit rating agency Moody's, Philippine banks have one of the highest exposures to these sectors in the Asia-Pacific region. This is why Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation, or RCBC, has been one of the early adopters of the BSP's call for sustainable finance. As one of the leading financial institutions in the Philippines, we believe in our role as an enabler of environmentally and socially responsible business decisions. For the third year in a row since we issued our green and sustainability bonds, we have published our RCBC Impact Report. In this annual publication, we disclosed our green and social portfolio, their environmental and social impact, and their contribution to the achievement of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. These are the highlights of the report. We have raised more than $1 billion in green and sustainability bonds since we implemented our sustainable finance framework. Adding to our growing list of milestones in green and sustainability bonds issued is the dual tenor 17.87 billion peso ASEAN Sustainability Bond. This was the only Philippine peso-denominated sustainability bond issued in the country in 2021. It was also the largest in our bank's 61-year banking history. We used the proceeds from these bond issuances to refinance loans to our customers. The proceeds of the sustainability bonds are allocated to eligible green and eligible social projects. In 2021, our total portfolio of eligible green and social assets was significantly higher than in 2020. This demonstrates our commitment to sustainable financing. Here's where the proceeds went. Renewable energy and energy efficiency projects dominate the bank's sustainable portfolio. They account for more than half of RCBC's total sustainable portfolio in 2021, from 49% in 2020. These eligible sustainable projects were funded in 2021. Through these projects, we were able to meet 11 of the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Here's how the projects we have funded have made environmental and social impacts, as well as contributed to the achievement of the UN SDGs. All these projects were funded by loans that go through a vetting process under our environmental and social management system. On top of responsible lending, we also walk the talk towards building a low-carbon and climate-resilient future. Our home base is the RCBC Plaza, a LEED Gold-certified green building. In 2020, we also announced that we will no longer finance the construction of new coal-fired power projects in the Philippines. Our funding for renewable energy even increased by at least 25% in 2021 from 2020. And our efforts in promoting and practicing ESG principles have been recognized by several prestigious award-giving bodies.
There is one area in which banks play a critical role. It is sustainable development. This message has never been clearer than in a developing country like the Philippines, where the credit line that financial institutions extend also serves as a lifeline to them. It is through this lens that we view our role at RCBC as important. As one of the country's top 10 largest banks, RCBC is heeding the call of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas for financial institutions to be an enabler of environmentally and socially responsible business decisions. In fact, we are not just determined to heed the call, but to lead the charge. We take pride in being at the forefront of sustainable finance in the country. And while this opens up a world of possibilities for us at RCBC, we also recognize the enormous responsibility it entails. It requires major changes in all our businesses, sectors, and economic and social stakeholders. It demands changing human behavior and mindsets, as well as systems, infrastructure, and many more. But more than these, it calls for serious determination and steadfast commitment. The road ahead is long and anything but easy. RCBC cannot do it alone. We need you as our enduring partners in this long journey. Only when we have reached our final destination, a green and bright future for our children and the succeeding generations, can we claim that our sustainable innovations have truly delivered.
Our sustainability journey is just beginning. We can make a bigger impact on people, on society, and on the planet if you join us in our journey. We invite you to download an electronic copy of our 2021 Impact Report.
That was a very good summary of what we've achieved so far. And whenever I see that video, I get tempted to sit down and admire what we have done. But we can't do that. There's still too much, just too much to do. And I look at that once in a while to just give me the motivation to push through. So discuss the way forward. Let's do that. Among the key areas we are focusing on is now to build the bank's capability at making environmental metrics-based strategies and decisions. We do this using two tools, or rather two methodologies. First is the Paris Agreement Capital Transition Assessment, or PACTA tool, which will now enable climate measurement and scenario analysis of our portfolio, and this will provide an assessment of our portfolio's transition risk. For the second one, RCBC in the latter half of 2021 became the first Philippine bank to join the Partnership for Carbon Accounting Financials, or PCAF. This is a global initiative among concerned financial institutions to harmonize, standardize, measurement, assessment, and disclosure of greenhouse gas emissions of their particular assets or portfolios. This methodology will enable us to measure the carbon footprint of our portfolio, report these under globally set standards, and more importantly, this serves as a foundation for setting emission reduction targets in our asset mix. Both of these methodologies help chart a sustainable pathway for the bank. The PACTA through a sustainable development scenario, which is a model scenario that would limit a portfolio's production level impact on global warming to below 2 degrees, something you would like to aim for. The PCAF achieves this through scientific estimation of the presently financed emissions of a given portfolio. But at the end of the day, the adoption of these tools are really more than just compliance. Through them, RCBC aims to stimulate best practices in understanding portfolio climate risk within the Philippine banking industry. So in summary, as we push forward in our sustainable pathways to combat climate change, knowledge building is key as we embed awareness among our employees, our clients, and our suppliers. And most importantly, we embrace transparency as we share our innovations, tools, and methodologies so that others may also join us on the journey to a brighter net zero future. Thank you very much. I'll take questions now.
Thank you, Gabby. We have an early question on your last slide, or PACTA. What are the challenges in using this scenario-based or emission measurement tools such as PACTA and PCAF?
Well, as is always, the challenge with using a new tool or methodology that is based on data. A lot of the factors used are based on estimations, historical data, and there will be some fine-tuning involved. So you must also accept the fact that you will not get your answers at your first cut. You will probably have to do several cuts, do refinements and enhancements to your data. In fact, you will find that some of the data estimations may not be adequate or may be off. So therefore, you will have to continually build your database so that your factors and your estimates come closer to what is actually happening.
There are a lot of requests to share the video presentation. I think that's available at our website. There's a question also that was submitted earlier. Why is it important for banks to understand the risk that appears, transition risk, which appears to be the focus of the tools currently being considered by RCBC?
That's a very good question. So what really is transition risk? I think that's what the question is trying to ask. Transition risk is really what is your company facing given the evolving climate around the technologies that we are currently employing, the dirty technologies. So it can range from market acceptance, your clients no longer patronizing products that have bad carbon footprints, to regulators issuing laws and regulations that will now limit the technologies you use, so that you now have to retool, or worse, you have to rebuild your entire manufacturing to adhere to more environmental friendly technologies. So transition risk is actually the risk of a company with respect to those particular emerging developments. And this can develop into a credit risk because this will affect their expense structure, this will affect their market, their revenue model, and therefore there is significant credit risk that can result from these developments. That's what transition risk is, and that's why it's very important for us to model this early and see how this is emerging for our clients.
What is the major, or what are the major challenges faced by RCBC in the Philippines to conduct ESG?
As in the past, the challenge has always been the wide acceptance of ESG. There are nascent technologies on clean emissions. However, they are not yet mainstream. Therefore, your clients are still reliant on a lot of dirty technologies for their operations. Some of them are aware of the ESG global movement, some aren't, and that remains a challenge. Orienting them, getting them into the bandwagon, so to speak, and getting them to adapt to cleaner practices.
Thank you, Gabby. Thank you to all who submitted the questions. We are running out of time, but we acknowledge all your questions in the Q&A box. Please email the ABA Secretariat for any other questions after this meeting. We declare also that the paper submitted by RCBC is noted and endorsed by the committee, and we will advise you of the further steps that ABA and the committee will take on your paper. Thank you again, Gabby and Army. I would like now to proceed to the next agenda item, which is consideration of issues for future policy advocacy work. May I now request for comments or suggestions on what further issues or activities that the committee may undertake in the future?
Chrissy?
Yes, Gabby.
Maybe I can make a suggestion. Given that now the new thing that we seem to be looking at are black swan risks, such as natural calamities. Maybe a business continuity might be a topic of interest in the next meeting that could be tackled.
Very true. We will put that in the list. Dilshan, good afternoon.
Hi, Chrissy. Just one suggestion. for a consideration would be to look at data. Data, how you make use of data in an organization. The area of analytics, predictive analytics, for impairment modeling, for sales, marketing. So data, the way you organize data and you make use of data in an organization, particularly in banking, big data is a big topic right now. So this is an area I think maybe we could look at some work to be done.
I think that suggestion will cover one whole meeting, Dilshan. There's so much to talk about data. Yeah, from impairment to sales and even compliance. So we have two suggestions, business continuity and data. Those are very good suggestions. Member banks can continue to submit their suggestions even after this meeting, and the ABA Secretariat will take note. So given those two suggestions, we will consider these in formulating the next work program for next year. We now proceed to the next agenda item, which is other matters. Are there any other matters that the committee wishes to take up? If none, we move to the next agenda, which is setting the next meeting of the committee. The next committee meeting will be held virtually on October 27, 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. Taipei time, in conjunction with the 38 ABA General Meeting and Conference. So more details on the meeting, including the meeting agenda and the registration link, will be shared with you in due course. If there are no other matters, I would like again to thank all of you for your participation in today's meeting and all the presenters and their papers and their contributions to the meaningful and productive discussions today. We declare the meeting adjourned and look forward to seeing you all again in our next meeting on October 27. Thank you very much.